This video is super long, so it's going to be divided into multiple parts. So
Yeah.
make sure you watch all of the parts of this video, okay? Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting, coming to you with a review for Lifetime's The Clark Sisters First Ladies of Gospel biopic. And who better to do this video with than my very own sister, Kertricia. Say hi.
What's up, y'all? Hello. Thank you for having me, sis.
Absolutely. I thought this would be super fun because we are both familiar with the Clark sisters, and we are sisters because we are sisters.
We are sisters. We stay together. I don't think you're gonna do that.
So Kertricia is my younger sister. We call her Nene sometimes. So if I say Nene, that's what I'm talking about. So first thing we're going to do is talk about our own personal connection to the Clark sisters. So how long have you been listening to the Clark sisters?
I don't know at what age, but I was not even a teen. The few songs that I always had on repeat was obviously Blessed and Highly Favored, for sure, In Vain, and You Brought That Sunshine. I always wanted to sing like Karen. I feel like even in my adulthood now, I'm still practicing. It's probably never gonna happen today. But yeah, it's been a long with my experiences with the Clark sisters. And one thing I'm grateful about with the movie is learning more about the other sisters, because I always associated more with Karen. So it's been a while. What about you?
So for me, to my recollection, I did not really know who the Clark sisters were until I was in college. And the reason for that is because, Sunday Best, they did a performance on Sunday Best, like a medley of all their hits. And I enjoyed the performance so much. I was like, I don't even know who these women are. Like, I knew maybe Blessed and Highly Favored when they sang it, but I didn't know the rest of their songs. So as an adult, while I was in college, that's when I got to know their music more and listen to more of it. So it wasn't until I was way older that I got to know them. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, so I have a fun question for us before we dive into the details of the movie. If you had a biopic, who would you want to play you, and what network would you want it to be on? Because I find it interesting that it was not on BET. And that Lifetime is becoming a place where Black people are having. Right.
Yep. You see all the ones coming afterwards. The Whitney Houston one's coming next, and Salt and Pepper's coming next on Lifetime.
Let me tell y'all something. The Salt and Pepper one looks terrible. It looks so bad. It looks bad, okay? The Salt and Pepper one looks so bad. The person playing Pepper is not dark-skinned enough. In my estimation. Of course I'm going to watch it. And
just
then
like I did with TLC.
About it.
It was horrible, but I watched it.
I barely remember that. I only gave it half of my attention. Like the Aaliyah one, the Toni Braxton one I watched and kind of liked.
Yeah, I watched the Toni Braxton one. Yep. Yeah, I kind of like that one too. Yeah, I definitely liked it better than TLC.
I'm beginning to be like a little bit disgusted by the amount of Whitney Houston stuff, because there's been a lot of documentaries. There have already been a lot of movies, including Bobby Brown's version, right? That featured Whitney Houston, and it's starting to feel like it's just for money. Like, yeah,
everybody keeps saying like, just let her rest. Like when the first commercial came on that showed her while I was watching Clark Sisters, I was like, why are we watching another?
Right.
Well, I'm probably still gonna watch it too, but I'm like,
right.
But back to your original question. Right. This sounds so weird, but everybody always told me I look exactly like her. I'll say 2 words, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Applehead. And you don't know Applehead. Come on now.
Applehead? That doesn't ring a bell.
How don't you know who Applehead is?
Who?
From Martin? Gina.
Gina! There's no way that 50-year-old Gina can play you.
Well, I mean, like,
in
I
your
mean,
adulthood, she could. But
yeah,
she
I
will
mean,
also be 100 years old by then.
yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, there's no young people I know right now that I could be like, oh, when they get older. I feel like that's probably a question I can think on as we go with this video, because that's gonna take some time.
Okay. Well, what about what
What about you?
network?
I want to be on all of them. Maybe on OWN. It depends on maybe OWN. Yeah.
I can get down
I'd
with
have to
that.
do OWN, or eventually I would want to branch out to all the other networks. But
But you can only choose when to actually like produce your biopic.
yeah, I'd probably go with OWN then.
Okay.
Yeah. What about
I
you?
I would probably have to think a little harder about who I would want to play me.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I'm drawing a blank on
Mm-hmm.
anybody who actually maybe looked like me.
Mm-hmm. Especially a young person, if you're talking
Right.
about from years to come, like that's kind of hard to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah. That is difficult to think about. So maybe I'll have to think on it. I have heard people say to me before that I look like Lauren London, which I don't think is true. But
I could see it.
barely.
She also would be like 60 something years old.
Yes. So I don't think she's that much older than me though.
She's probably no. She's probably in early 30s, probably. Well,
Right.
you're in early 30s though, so aren't you 30? I can't keep up with y'all no more. You're 29.
Not yet.
You're 29.
Yes, thank you.
I turned 28 this month. We're
Right.
18 months apart.
29. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as network, I think OWN is a really good choice. I would probably pick OWN or BET just to kind of keep it in the Black family.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
If it's BET, it would have to have like a lot of control over how it goes, because biopics can be botched so easily.
It sure can. But at least with BET, they'll play your biopic anytime. If it's because they play this Christmas when it's April, so.
And Baby Boy every 30 minutes.
I'm saying this Christmas, Baby Boy, Friday. I can't tell you. That's my favorite movie, by the way. I watch it all the time. But
Madea movies.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, the
Faithfully. Which is another reason why I say OWN, because I know Oprah and Tyler Perry are gonna hook it up. So.
Yeah. But okay, enough of that. So next we're going to talk about the casting, the acting, and the singing in this movie. So we have the five sisters and their mom, which are the main, people that this biopic is about. We have El Bonita, Twinkie, played by Christina Bale. We have Dorinda, played by Shalea Frazier. Karen Clark Sheard is played by Kiera Clark Sheard. Denise Nisi is played by Raven Goodwin. Jackie Cullum. Oh shoot, I actually don't have who she's played by.
Let's see. I know her name. Why don't I know her name? It's Burchett. Angela Burchett. Yes, that's her name. She reminds me a little of Marsha Ambrosius. Yeah, a little bit. Mm-hmm. And have you ever seen This Is Me? Circus movie with Jack Human. Yeah. Oh, it's not called This Is Me. The song is called This Is Me. What is the name of that movie? You talking
about Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman.
You said Jack Human.
Jack. You know what I'm talking about, Wolverine.
You talking about The Greatest Showman? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. But
I haven't seen it.
Have you seen that? It's good. I've seen it a billion times. You think I know the man's name? I know him as Wolverine. Look,
girl, he knows like Jack what Human. It is.
Well, she plays in that movie. The girl I'm talking about, she also reminds me. She looks like Angela, and she looks like Marsha. But yeah, moving on.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, we have that person, and then we have Maddie Moss Clark, which is the Clark sisters' mother, played by Anjanae Ellis. So, what did you think of the acting?
I think her name is Aunjanue.
Oh, maybe that's right.
I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Okay.
It's like Aunjanue, something like that. But I thought the acting from all aspects was phenomenal. I think it was perfect on everybody's part. Nobody let me down.
I thought that
like
the
at all.
acting was great, but Ingenue outacted all of them.
Oh yeah, she was top.
The caliber of
I
her acting was above and beyond everybody else in this show.
Yeah. So there was where there was something I read on Facebook. It was an article that popped up that Kiki said Ingenue murked her grandma's part, meaning she
Right.
killed it. Like,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, she did that. Swank, give me a note.
Right. I don't know Maddie Moss Clark, but I feel like she was embodied by
Yeah,
Ingenue.
seriously. Like her spirit came into her and was like, let me hear that. Like she told Dorinda. Dorinda, let me hear that.
Well, one thing I will
Yeah.
say about the movie that I didn't care for is that they did not age Ingenue appropriately. Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
when it was
She looked a
when
little
she
too
got
young.
older, she looked exactly the same. And it's
Mhm.
like, I know black don't crack, but she's dying. Like
Right,
she
right,
should at least
yeah.
have some gray hair, some wrinkles. Like, was there no money in the budget for her makeup? Like, to make her look a little older.
Yeah, they just made her look tired instead of. She actually wasn't that old when she was dying.
She was
She
what,
only died in
69?
like her 60s. She was like, yeah, which is like okay, maybe she really didn't look, but yeah, I mean they could have gave her a little bit more gray hair, but I think her face was probably like okay.
I don't know. If you're almost 70, there are some signs of aging.
Yeah, but when I think about like people's grandmas that I know now that are 70, they don't look that old.
But it's not grandmas people that you know now. It's about grandmas from maybe the previous generation where the medicine wasn't as good. And in addition, she was also dying. She was sick, and being sick ages you too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think they could have done a little better in that respect. So did everyone was everyone using their own voice? Did anybody lip sync?
no, everybody used their own voice.
That's what I
And
thought.
one thing I like to do is after movies that I'm like semi obsessed with, which always seems to be singing movies, I always look for the interviews afterwards. So Shalea did an interview. She was on the Terrell Grice show. I hope I'm saying his last name right, as well as
Sure, I thought his name was Terrell G. Rice.
I think it's Grice or Grice. I don't know. I never hear his last name, but Shalea was also on his show, and
Yes, I
they
saw it.
had people were talking. They were talking, saying that they had to use their own voices as the producers wanted the younger sound from when they were like back in the day. So they didn't use any pre-recorded tracks, and they definitely didn't use the Clark sisters' voices now, which their voices have definitely matured. But they all said they were using their own voices, but it took a lot of vocal coaching to get them to sound how the Clark sisters sounded back in the day. So not one thing was lip synced at all. It was all them. And if people know how Kiki Sheard sings, you can definitely hear her voice.
No, what I was asking is if they use some people's voice and lip sync others. Now, I definitely know Shalea and Kiara use their voices, but and I know that old girl didn't sound like Twinkie.
Girl, okay, so if you haven't heard her sing, after we get off of this video, go on Terrell's show.
Oh, I've heard her sing. I watched that.
Girl.
I watched it. She's
like,
good. So for whatever reason, I thought Jill Scott was in this movie playing Twinkie.
Well, no, they just look exactly alike.
They don't, because I was like, that looks like Jill Scott, and she even sounded like Jill Scott a little bit. And I was like, but that's not Jill Scott. And later on,
a little gap. Somebody has said, yeah. So, Will's sister Aaliyah, when it came on, she was like, "Oh yeah, I see you, Jill," and I was like, "Where's Jill Scott?" Because I was like, "That definitely ain't her." And I kept looking. I was like, "Man, but she looked just like her." But I was like, "Nah." I kept looking at her mouth, and I was like, "That ain't
her." Right. Like after a while, I was like, "That's definitely not her," and she even sounded like Jill Scott a little bit.
Yeah, but you know, everybody was saying if Jill Scott happens to have a biopic, that's the perfect person to play her. She can sing, she can blow, and they look just alike. So,
that's true. Yeah, but yeah. So enough about that. Let's dive into what actually happened in the movie. Oh.
Oh.
All right. The movie starts, picture it, Detroit, 1963. Maddie Moss Clark is waking up the sisters at 3:13 a.m. All the girls are young and they're learning how to harmonize.
Mm-hmm.
And right away we see Maddie Moss Clark is a strict
Joe Jackson.
yes a strict Joe Jackson esque. So I don't know what to call her, song leader slash director of music. And it was interesting the way that, they put it on Terrell's show, and they were talking about how their mom didn't have a tape recorder to remember the harmonies, so she would wake the girls up in the morning and use them to teach the harmonies to other choirs.
But did you notice that in the movie they had one? Did you
when they were little?
Yeah.
No.
So I'm watching it now, and there's a little, when she tells her to hit it in, and she goes on the recorder.
When they're kids?
Yes.
No way.
No. So
girl, that is hilarious.
Can you see it right here?
Okay, I can see.
Okay, so you can hear her saying twink. I'll say the words for you. She says, hold on. Maybe you can even hear it yourself. Listen to this.
To get this, Lord, put it in my heart. I don't want to lose it. Don't want to lose it. Oh, I can. You're going to stand on this one. Twink, set up the tape recorder.
Heard it? Twink, set up the tape recorder. And she set it up. So I didn't catch that until after I heard them say that. And so I went back and watched the movie, and I said, hold on, because I didn't even see the tape recorder when I watched it the first two times. So I found that interesting.
Do you think that the movie took some liberties?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because I don't.
Yeah. Which, they do have the right to embellish a little bit, and you know why I say that? I noticed that as well, because there was footage that came out after the movie that showed Denise at the funeral, and I think it was from the time she got on the stage to the time she got off, and her kids never came up there. So that was also something that they added in the movie to let us know that she had 7 kids. So yeah. Of course, they were going to embellish certain things. So,
right. So it looks like the cassette player, the tape player, came out in 1962, which was the year before that scene that we saw. But I don't know if it would have been affordable for their family during that time, because when new technology comes out, it's usually really expensive. So they probably didn't have one, and the people just weren't paying attention.
And she feeding 6 kids, because mind you, they had a brother.
They didn't talk about him at all.
They didn't talk about him. Yeah, they didn't talk about him at all.
That's why I was wondering. I was like, there were no boys.
He probably lived with the dad, the Cullum family. That's because I think he was the oldest, and then Jackie came with that family, with his dad, and then she started having the Clark sisters. So
Maddie was divorced.
Yeah,
and on her second husband.
Yeah. Now I don't know I don't know if she ever was married to that first one. She probably was growing back in the day, growing up how they were. She probably did get married to him, but she did have 2 kids with 2 other people before she met Bishop.
Okay. Okay, so we see them singing in church in 1973. So it's 10 years later, and we also see a power struggle between Denise and Jackie. And of course, they have different last names because they have different fathers. And Denise is the oldest of the actual Clark sisters with the last name Clark. What did you think about the tension between them?
It kind of made me sad, dang, because it seems like as how old they were, that they probably were living under the same roof for so long. It kind of put in my head, when did they realize that, I guess, Jackie had a different dad? At what age did they realize, okay, she has a different father? Or if Jackie stayed with dad and then moved in later, So
Mhm.
it's like to me, as they're growing up, it's like we're sisters full blood, regardless if we have different dads or not. Just like us,
Mhm.
it's like just if we have different dads, so it's not like, oh, I'm the oldest, blah blah blah. So I was just like, dang, like y'all are this old and y'all still ain't like close like that. That just kind of like put that in my head a little bit.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting you bring that up because it's possible that my understanding is that Jackie was there to help when Maddie was off traveling.
On the road. Yep.
Right. And so it's
Yeah.
possible that she didn't come in to help until later.
Until later.
They were
Yeah.
all
So
a little older.
that's very interesting. Yeah.
Right. So what do you think about Denise at this point? She's taking a
So
lot of
she's
liberties that her sisters are not.
yeah, she's the rebel, the type of free spirits, if you will.
Hmm.
The one that's kind of like adventurous, the fast tail. That's like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, I'll be back, blah blah blah. That I got that vibe immediately
Hmm.
when I saw Denise.
Yeah, I thought she was
Yeah,
the one that was, out in them streets,
yeah,
but choosing not to be smart about it. That was the
right. Like living reckless. Just live out here living
right,
reckless.
right. And we'll talk later about why that was, or like what her dynamic was with the family.
In the palace running amok,
Right. Shut
like
up.
Mama D said. Let's go
So,
back. Let's go. Hold on. Let's go
okay.
back to you when they were in the church singing Never Shall Forget," which is one of my absolute favorites. Might
I had never heard that song before.
Okay, so in that part, we are getting to see Bishop for the first time,
Right.
and he's not looking very happy. After they finish singing, he's clapping, but he also has a mug on his face, which kind of introduces you to the character that he's about to play.
Mhm.
So I wanted to note that real quick.
Right. Great. That's a great point. So yeah, there's we see that their mom has earned gold records that she hides from her husband.
Yep.
Which I think is terrible. I think apparently their dad does not want them recording albums. There's usually this type of tension with gospel artists of like, you're praising God, but you're doing it for money, and that doesn't feel right. And to be fair, gospel artists are some of the lowest earners in the music business as well, because they're supposed to be doing it for God, or their gospel music is not popular. And apparently their mom is doing workshops. She held a title. It was like International Music Director for the Church of God in Christ.
Is. I think you said it right. International Music Department President.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so she would go around and travel to different churches and do songs with their choir, which I cannot believe was an actual position.
I love it. I don't know.
so FYI, the church that we grew up in does not have choirs. And part of it is we have singing groups, but they are not choirs that perform during church services.
Like robes and
like there are no robes, there are no stands or bleachers in the front of the church. The idea behind that is that there's no record in the Bible that has choirs singing in the front of the church. And the church that we go to is the Church of Christ, which is supposed to be modeled specifically on the church that, the disciples were teaching in back in the Bible
there's
days.
No music.
There's also no music. There's no drums, no piano. There's no instruments at all. You sing a cappella, and everyone in the audience is supposed to sing along and all lift up our voices to God. So there's no music, there's no choirs. And that's just to frame for you all where we are coming from or what we grew up.
Yeah, that's how we grew up. However, now that we're adults, speaking just for myself, I do go still to a non-denominational church, but I am I'm in like 3 choirs, and we do have instruments. And so it was a struggle for me coming from what I was taught, but then also reading in the Bible that people did praise God with instruments and things of that nature. So to me, as long as I'm still praising God, that's what matters. But yeah, that's how we were raised.
Right. And for me, I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum, because I feel like that if you think about the people in the church who are associated with the choir and associated with the band, they have this like celebrity about them a little bit. And for me, I'm not okay with that. Like, just personally in my spiritual journey, it's like, I don't come to church to be entertained. I come to church to be a part of the worship. And if the choir is learning new songs that I don't know, I can't participate in that. So it's no judgment or anything on anybody else, but just for me, I prefer to be in a church where we are all singing, we all have the hymn book, we can all join in together. And that's just based on what I was taught as when we grew up. Yeah.
And I've also seen in churches where they didn't have instruments at all, and the singers themselves were just a little, I guess we should say, prideful. And
That is true.
They had a little bit of celebrity, you know, with them as
I
well.
will agree with that. Yes.
It's like, my whole thing is, as long as the quote unquote entertainers are not doing it to entertain people, then I feel like it's fine. Because there could be a time where you're in a church that there's been plenty of times growing up in church that nobody had music and they were still, you know, had the words on the screen as they were singing or they were teaching. And so you could still sing along. But at the church I go to, it's the same way. We are up there singing basically songs everybody else knows, Kirk Franklin, anything else like that. Words are still on the screen, and you're having an encounter with God. So what I see is, God knows your heart. And if you're up there doing it for people to be like, okay, Beyonce, then you're not doing it for the right reason. But if you're up there like, I'm bringing this message because I'm worshiping God and I'm also want to bless the people, then I feel like that's fine.
Right. Yeah. It's just about what you're comfortable with in your own personal journey and your own spirituality. So, but for me, the idea, I could see how the idea of them singing for money and traveling around in that time back in the 70s could be controversial, and that their father could not be on board.
Yeah. He said in his words that she was getting too prideful and that ambition did not look good on her.
When he said that, I was like, oh, first off, I feel like they took some liberties. I don't know if he said those exact words. However, that really hurt me to my heart, like personally, because I am what I consider to be an ambitious person. And I'm, you know, in school and working, and I have ambitions of, you know, owning my own businesses and those types of things. And if the person that I loved and had kids with told me that the person that I am, it's not like, doesn't look good on me, like the ambitious part of my spirit doesn't look good on me, that would be like really hurtful.
It obviously seemed like it hurt her for sure.
Yeah. So apparently their mom is traveling and taking Twinkie with her, which means that Twinkie is not doing well in school. Now, that's a valid concern that Bishop brought up. I thought that was pretty valid. Him concerned with her education. Apparently, while Maddie and Twinkie are on the road, Jackie is supposed to be left in charge of the girls, but she can't cook.
Can't clean.
Right. She can't cook. She doesn't clean. And I'm wondering if that's really true, or if he's just salty that she is not his daughter.
Yeah.
To be fair, she did bring takeout.
Good point. I didn't think about that. All I thought was maybe he was saying that because he didn't want Maddie to go. But now that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, there's this power struggle between their mom and their dad. We have Maddie Moss Clark, who is very strong-willed, and we have her husband, who feels like she has a duty as his, you know, first lady.
Yep.
And he, in my estimation, he uses scripture to try to control her, which to me is something that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And
They
it's
pick
like,
out that perfect part.
right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Particularly women, because the Bible speaks a lot of times about women's place in the church, and
Mm-hmm.
usually like subservient in the church, and they can only do certain things, and they can't preach, but they can teach little children. And
Yeah.
there are some churches that have women preachers, and the way we grew up, that's not okay. I think that her being so strong-willed and being the way that she was kind of defied gender roles a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it did, especially back in them times.
right, like
Yeah.
she was doing things that brought money into the household, and I wonder if she was making more money than Bishop was. That it's
Probably so.
possible, right? It's
Yeah.
possible that
Gold record.
right, that
Yeah.
also played a role in the breakdown of their marriage.
Yeah. Because he just looked like he was just a beat down sad puppy. Like
Yeah.
life was just moving on without him, and he was just like, I'm the bishop, looking basically like I'm a loner because my wife's not here.
Right.
He's on
It's
the
like,
road.
right. Grow up.
Exactly. He was pouting all the time.
Right. And she was like, being the first lady doesn't pay well. Okay.
Yeah, period. He was like, that doesn't pay, because he was like, you're gonna go to the pastor's wife's breakfast.
Right. Right. She's like, we got 5 daughters. Most of them are chunky. We got to feed them.
I cannot. I can't. Let's get into this. What's the next scene? Because I'm ready to talk about the Miss Gumshoe scene.
So that's what's coming up next. We find out that Dorinda has a love interest in choir named Greg.
Hey, Greg.
And then we see that their mom has a real gift for directing choirs. Like seeing her with her daughters was different than seeing her in that scene with the choir. And she does this. The way she directs the choir is like so theatrical. When she threw that shoe.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. So in the choir, like I always said, I want a crazy choir director. I love them crazy. That's why I'm attracted to it, because I feel like that brings out the best results. Like you can tell, like Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson. Okay. What's my girl? What's Tony's mom's name? Evelyn. Tony Tamar. It's just there. Maddie Clark sisters. You just put it there. The crazy mamas and daddies produce productive people.
So I want to challenge that, because do you think that's always true?
I mean, obviously, it's not going to be all 100% true. It could cause some scarring. It depends on the amount.
Definitely cause scarring.
Well, with Joe Jackson, it's a different type. Obviously, I'm not hooray for trauma.
Right.
But look, saying.
the actions of Denise proved that there was scarring.
Okay? Yeah, of course.
Tamar is really crazy. So
their whole family, everybody
their whole family does have issues. Tamar,
it's gonna come. It's bittersweet. That's what it is. It's gonna be some success, but then there's also gonna be like traumatization in your life, which obviously it's not worth it.
Right. Do you think that it's possible for someone to gain success by having a parent / manager, or whatever you want to call them, that takes a more loving or caring or nurturing approach? Do you think they have to be as hard?
No, I don't think so. As long as the child respects that person, because you can gain respect by being I have my pastor right now, and then there's another lady, Miss Granada, who is not a member of our church, but she comes in to direct, and she has that demeanor of, you're gonna respect me. This is what I'm here to do. We're here to sing about God. This is what it's gonna be. If you don't like it, blah blah blah. And I love that. So she not throwing stuff at us and all this stuff. And she might tell you to spit your gum out and you're going to have to wait to get some water or something. But that, I feel like that you can get success from. But but since we're talking about from back in the day and how these people were, I'm just like, and that's how they grew up. So yeah.
Do you think that in them telling, I don't know how it works, like, because Maddie Moss Clark died years ago, so the character that Ingenue played was amalgam of the stories that the Clark sisters told the producers. Do you think that it's possible that Maddie was harder on them than we saw?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because like this is since they were young. You know, all we know is them getting them up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't show a violent side of her. But
she slapped somebody.
No, she slapped Denise. I'm saying when they were younger, like they didn't show.
Right, but what I'm saying is do you think that it's possible that she actually did physically put hands on them when they didn't get a no or something?
No, I'm saying I do think it was. I'm just saying that they didn't. I definitely think it was, but they weren't gonna. I don't think they were gonna tell that or want that to be shown because they probably didn't want their mom to seem like a monster. So it was kind of just a little like sprinkled in, like this is the type of woman she was, but we ain't gonna tell y'all the full details so y'all can paint our mom like a horrible monster because she was slapping us at 6 and 7 years old if we didn't get stuff right. If she was throwing stuff at people that wasn't her kids, what you think she was doing to her dang gone kid?
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like there's something about, I don't know if it's church people or if it's all people that like have so much respect for somebody that even when they're dead, they don't tell the full truth.
Yeah, I mean, because think about it, even like Whitney, so many people were saying like in her biopic how they painted her to be this monster. Like everybody got some type of new information when everybody was thinking that Bobby was the one who put her on crack and all this stuff, but then you find out later it was her who started it and she had a lesbian relationship, like all this stuff. Like, yeah, they're not gonna want that stuff to be out. Like they're honoring their mom. Like they're not gonna want her to be seen as monster. Like,
I feel like in the Jackson 5, I feel like in the Jackson 5 biopic, they were pretty clear about how abusive Joe Jackson was, and he's still alive.
No, he dead now. I think ain't he dead?
I think he's alive right now. Did he die?
I think he died. He died like a couple years ago, didn't he? Let me look this up. Hold on, Joe Jackson, is he alive? I could have swore he died.
Oh, he died in 2018.
Yeah, I'm like, I knew he had recently died.
I thought he died. I thought he was alive. But the point, he was alive up until 2 years ago.
Well, wasn't he just a mean monster in general, though? I don't think they kind of like cared to honor him like that. He probably was just too mean to honor. I don't think it really mattered at that point. Kind of like how Ike and Tina.
Right. But
Ike was well alive when it came out, and what were you saying?
I just feel like they have the right to tell the story about who their mom was, but it's something about it feels cheapened if they're not telling the whole truth.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think I think it was Terrell's show, or I think it was an interview with Kiki Sheard when she was growing up with her grandmother, said that she saw her grandma hit somebody in the head. It wasn't a tape recorder, it was some type of hard thing that she threw, and I was like, and it like hit them, and I was just like, if obviously she doing that to people, they was getting in trouble for getting stuff wrong. Like it was growing up back in the same times that the Jacksons was growing up, back in the same times that Tony and them was growing up. Like it was, they come from families.
But they're a little older.
They are a little older, but at the same time, Evelyn's mom, growing up the same, she probably like a few years younger than Maddie, maybe. I don't know how old they are. Evelyn got to be in her 70s, right? Early 70s? What? Yeah, because Tony's like in her 50s.
Right, but if
so
they're
like 10 years younger. It's probably like
okay,
a 10-year gap, which
that
really isn't
right.
that big of a difference when we're talking about violence from back in the day. Your mom being you, their mom being the kids. Like all you know is strong Black women out here working, pounding the pavement, and I'm coming home, I'm trying to get this stuff right, and y'all ain't getting it right. I'm about to beat y'all tail. Like that's what it was. So yeah, I guess I can see how you say it is a little cheapened, but I think at the same time, they were probably just concerned about honoring their mom in a good way.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about that scene, the gum chewing scene?
Oh, it was just funny when she was like, Greg, I don't care if your daddy is the deacon. She said, I'll throw you and my daughter up out of here. And then she said, it's been a long time since I heard Sorry Sopranos. that was pretty much it for that, Miss Gum Chewer.
I thought it was the throwing of the shoe was horrible. Like, I feel like she threw it so far over the girl's head, like she definitely didn't want to hit her. Like, she could have made it.
It was kind of just like a startle type thing.
Like, she could have made it a little more believable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Bishop, which Maddie calls Clark, is in his feelings because his wife is traveling with choirs instead of attending church services. We talked about his feelings about him wanting her to be the appropriate, proper first lady. And Maddie's just out here getting this money, and she is forced. She's forced to have to She's forced to have to stroke his ego, and he wants her to go to the pastor wife's breakfast, but she has another obligation. You know, she got to go on the road.
Her and Twinkie got to go on the road.
Right, and so he calls her useless, and next thing we know, they fighting. Well, no, he's beating her. They're not fighting. Her. He is beating her. Okay. And so we see Jackie. She got a man in these streets. Yeah. But her date gets interrupted because she hears her stepfather beating on her mama. The other sisters are downstairs scared, scared like they are like 5 years old. And that shocked me because at this point,
they didn't move.
Right. At this point, they're supposed to be in their 20s, maybe 19.
It seems like it. Maybe in late teens, probably early 20s.
Right. And so because of that, I feel like that's supposed to be a clear indicator that this was a continuously violent, continuously violent relationship for them to know not to get involved, not to defend their mother, who they love so much. So, but Jackie apparently does not have that in her, and makes me think that she didn't grow up with them because she was not willing to take that.
She wasn't here for it. Yeah.
Right. So she calls the police. He comes downstairs saying, "You calling the police in my own house," and he hits her.
Yeah.
And kicks her out.
Right.
And
that's it just from Jackie's perspective, it's kind of just like, this dude isn't my dad. And to me, it's a guy off the street, regardless, putting his hands on my mama, and I'm about to call the cops, period. Right. And the other ones are just like, it'll all be over soon.
Right.
Like, you know, and because even when the mom comes down after he smacks her, and, you know, when Jackie says, I'm not going to stand here, I don't want to stay here, and he continued to do this, I'm not going to watch him hurt you like this. And she's like, what did I ever do to him? And she leaves, and the girls are comforting Maddie, and she's like, y'all dry up, like, it's all good. It's kind of just like, this is a repeated thing. So, girl.
And to be fair, back in those days, domestic violence was treated very differently.
It was almost acceptable. It's kind of just like, this is what comes, like, this is just, don't do anything to make him mad, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But Jackie is like, you don't have to tell me twice to leave. I thought it was so weird how much holier than thou he was to her, to his wife, and then started beating her. Like, how?
Exactly.
Like, so hypocritical. That was just disgusting. And then Jackie is like, I'm out of here. He can beat on you, but I'm not finna stick around and watch.
Right.
So I appreciated that Jackie stood up for her mother, and that she was not willing to stick around and let, her stepfather, be complicit in that.
Right.
So Jackie works at a nursing home with her boyfriend at the time. And he comes to check on her because she got hit. She has a bruise on her face. Yeah. Right. And her mom has a bruise too. Her mom comes to let her know that she has divorced Bishop.
Yep.
Now, I find that interesting because I feel like even now, well, maybe not so much now. Divorce is frowned upon in almost all Christian churches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the fact that she still held her title of international music director, president, lady, through 2 divorces is real interesting, especially considering how they kind of disowned Denise for being an unwed mother.
Mm-hmm.
They get real particular on certain stuff and not on others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was expecting there to be some type of backlash, and it appeared that there was not.
Right.
So that was odd.
I wonder if it was like a quiet divorce or not. You know, like it wasn't a whole lot of light.
She was the first. She has a high position in the Kojic church, and her husband was a leader of a church. There's no way that divorce was quiet.
Well, I mean, if you watch Greenleaf.
I do not.
Oh my gosh. Okay, if you have Netflix, you gotta watch Greenleaf. Oh my gosh. That now talk about Black people in the church. That is a really, really good show. It's really, really good. You really should give it a try. But there is ways you can secretly divorce and still be in the church. There's ways. But you know, they probably didn't. Maddie don't look like she would have put up with no secret, child.
No. Joseph almost secretly divorced Mary.
Right. There's ways. There's ways.
No. I don't think there was a way for them to cover that up, because they had been married for at least 20 years, maybe. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. But so yeah, we see that Maddie is still running them into the ground on vocals.
Mm-hmm.
She leaves to go shopping, and when she comes back, they're asleep in the pews. So this is another less an easy or light way of them talking about how hard she was on her daughters when it came to singing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, that's just me, and I'm not gonna say in all things, in a lot of things, I guess when it comes to like music and singing and stuff like that, or even like acting and things, like I tend to be a perfectionist. So I think that's what draws me to the people who are just like, do it again, do it again, do it again. And even like they were so tired, and they was like, who was it this time? Karen, you too loud. Twinkie, was you. You know, like, and just constantly getting it right, because she was drilling in that one voice. I don't need to hear Karen. I don't need to hear Dorinda. Like, I need to hear one voice, and they got it.
Yeah. So now that they are free from Bishop, they are recording a record for their first album with their uncle, and Dorinda is singing lead, but this is the point. You're gonna have to sing all the songs, because these songs I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, Dorinda is singing lead, but this is the turning point where it's going to kind of switch to Karen, where Maddie kind of turns her attention to Karen and is going to push her beyond her comfort zone. Let me tell y'all something. Karen's, even though, Kiera Clark-Sheard, Karen's daughter, played her in this movie. And when I tell you that I was so annoyed at Karen's
Why?
There is something that annoys me about people who don't want to push themselves to be great. And her timid nature just bothered me, because it's like, you definitely can sing. You've been singing with your sisters. Your mom has been pushing you, and for her to be so scared, or like the way that she dealt with her sisters, it just annoyed me.
You know what? It's so funny, because I put this in my notes. Karen is the one I relate to the most, and this is something that I'm struggling with. You already know, like, I'm not like, I have a voice. Like, I know I can sing. I'm not as great as I want to be, but I always get nervous and I always get shy. So even for me to have joined the choir, even sometime now, and like at my church, what they like to do is, if you suggest a song, you better believe you probably gonna be leading it. So it's one thing I don't like to do is suggest songs, even though sometimes I still do. But I'm just like, I don't want to leave this. I don't want to leave. I'm nervous. They're like, you got it. Just push it out. Why are you afraid? But it's just something that just don't want to leave yet. I don't know why, but let's continue. And I imagine you bring up when she said who she's singing to, Cats. When she was in the video, she was like, this song is about struggling. She was like, who you singing to, Cats? She said, you're supposed to be helping somebody. She said, I thought I was, Mama. You thought wrong. Dorinda, let me hear that.
You got a lot more detail than I did. I
watched it 4 times.
Oh, I watched it once. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it 4 times and I took notes on the 4th time. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But one of the girls, and I can't remember who, it might have been Jackie. No, definitely not Jackie. Who am I missing? No, it wasn't
Dorinda?
Denise. No, then it had to be Jackie. One of the girls comes up to Maddie at the end of that recording session and is concerned that if their song goes on the radio, then that they aren't saved.
Oh, it was. I think it was. Yeah, I have it right here. Twinkie asked Maddie if she thinks their song was played on the radio because Bishop said if they weren't saved, that they did.
Right. And so there's this, always this contrast of like using scripture to guilt people into doing what you want them to do or what you think is right for them. And if they had let that get to them, we wouldn't have the Clark sisters that we have, today.
Yeah. But Maddie said the Kojic believe. Kojic is the Church of God in Christ. The Kojic believes in spreading the gospel, and she said that's what they were doing. So she was like, moving on.
Right. So Twinkie, we find out Twinkie has to choose between school and continuing to work with the group.
Howard University.
Yeah, turned down the opportunity to go to Howard University. And that's another thing. I have heard people in churches kind of call college the devil. Not in the church we grew up in, but it's been a way, like people have used church and scripture and spirituality to stop people from attending college, which kind of sucks. And I don't know that was the case in this situation, but she had to make a choice and she chose the Clark sisters, the group.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we see a really sweet moment with Jackie and Maddie. Jackie is about to get married and Maddie gives her back the rent that she's been paying out of her paycheck. Apparently Bishop had Jackie paying rent in the house and Maddie set it all aside and gave it back to her. So I thought that was like a really sweet moment.
I didn't realize that the dad, where'd you see that information at? I guess it's implied, huh?
That's what I took
was thinking that maybe just because she probably was the only one who had the actual job and was just trying to help her mom out. But I didn't, that's a different type of.
That's what I assumed. But
that's a good assumption. I didn't know. Okay. All I was thinking of was Jackie was the only one who had a job and maybe she wanted to help her mom out.
Oh, that's possible.
I mean, that's what it looked like. It didn't seem like nobody else was working but Jackie. So I figured she was just giving her $50 every 2 weeks just to help mom out. I didn't. That's a different way of looking at it, though. You have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. They weren't clear about that. But that was a really sweet moment and allowed us to see a different side of Maddie. What else? So we see that they are at the 1976 Kojic United National Auxiliary Convention. And this is kind of like their breakout point a little bit because things ramp up from here on out with their careers. Karen has stage fright. She was annoying me.
That's me.
Again. And
I've always been the one to get out there. I was like,
as I was watching this part, I was like, Maddie is a hype woman. She's like a holy hype woman. Yes.
Am I right about it? Can I get an amen?
Get a Lord a hand clap of praise. If God has been like, it's just hyping everybody up.
Even when Karen come out, give her a hand clap, y'all. Come on, hype master.
Right. So
do that.
They sing, do you know what song? Because
I can do all things. I can do all things.
And then Maddie has to start singing because Karen is afraid. Yeah. Maddie has to start and
all things don't pay me no mind.
But then Karen finally gets it and sings.
Blows it
and,
out the water, okay?
right, of course.